go for it.
And action. So everyone, thank you if you've joined us on the live stream thus far. My name is Ben Stein, founder and lead coach at Purpose Up, where I help people take their careers to the next level. Today, I am very excited to have Rusty Osborne with me, and we are going to talk both about career evolution, weight loss, and our personal stories. And this is going to be a very exciting format today because about halfway through, we're going to flip the script and Rusty is going to interview me. So before I forgot to hit record before we went rolling, Rusty, please tell me a little bit about who you are and what you're up to in the world.
Absolutely. So my name is Rusty Osborne, CEO and founder of Find Your Total Health, and we help musicians to lose weight and feel great forever. So not just right now, but how can we really build a lifestyle for you that fits long-term, that'll sustain forever? And the reason we do this is I was obese, I was drunk, I was dealing with depression, anxiety, and just stuck in that lifestyle of a musician, and as many entrepreneurs know as well, or other, I mean, anybody really, you can get stuck in this cycle of, well, I'm going to eat too much because I feel like it, and then I'm going to drink too much that night. You wake up feeling like garbage, and you end up doing it all again, right? And over and over. And sometimes you try and out exercise that lifestyle, and that doesn't work either. Right. So once I learned how to break free from that, we started helping others do the same thing. Right. Now, I personally lost 85 pounds through my journey and put on 25 pounds of muscle. And now we've helped our clients collectively. I think we're over 600 pounds lost this year. So pretty stoked about that. And that's basically what we do, man. We help musicians and some other people lose weight and feel great forever.
All right. I love the specificity, but I assume that the knowledge that you share applies not only to musicians, but other folks as well. So for those of you that are not musicians, it's okay. You're still in the right place because Rusty is going to share a ton of value with you today. And, I think we share a lot of similarities in our journey in terms of over indulgence, over imbibing, and not really knowing like how to control ourselves. And I know for me, I was drinking too much, smoking too much pot, and that led me to. It was basically because I was numbing myself, right? And there was some stuff that I hadn't dealt with, and once I realized, A, this isn't serving me, and B, how do I change this? That's when I dove into this whole world of healing, personal development, et cetera. And it's amazing what's opened up for me. So let's dive into like paint a picture of before Rusty for me. I've seen some of your photos, and it's pretty impressive. Looking at you now, you're a lean machine, but you definitely had some heft on you. How did you get to that place, and paint a picture of me about what bottom looked like for you?
Yeah. I hit a couple rock bottoms, to be honest with you. And they were from different places at different times. Really, there's a couple cruxes of the situation, but what was going on was I was eating so much because deep down I knew that was just what I was best at. Like everyone else was so good at something. I was never the best musician. I was never the best singer. I was never the best at talking to girls or whatever it might have been. But damn it, I could out eat you any day of the week. So I just kept doing that. And then when I was old enough to drink, well then, hell, why not add that to the list? And so I could out drink anybody I knew, except for maybe my brother. We had competitions and that didn't turn out very well, right? So it was that kind of cycle of this macho manliness. I can outdo you at something.
Right.
But it was born out of insecurity. I knew that I wasn't the best at any of those other things. I didn't get the best grades. I wasn't getting the best jobs. None of it really worked out. So I just did the one thing I had control over, and I did the hell out of it.
All right. That's insightful. And it's crazy, especially I think with brothers and competition. what that can drive, right? Both
Mhm.
positive and negative.
Mhm.
I was actually just listening to a podcast recently with Sean White, and he was talking about how the competition with his brother, who's a few years older than him, like drove him like crazy. So it's amazing, like what those motivations are.
Mhm.
Where did you grow up, and how did you find music as one of your primary outlets?
Yeah, I was born in Illinois, and as a kid, about 7, 8 years old, we moved out to Huntington Beach, California, and I lived there for about 20 years. And when I got there, we were the Midwest kids that moved out, so we automatically just weren't as cool because we dressed, like 10 years behind the times as far as California is concerned. And through that, I learned that my mom was really into music. My mom and dad both listened to music and were very passionate about the history of rock and roll or jazz or all these different things. So introducing me to that really deeply led me to think, well, why shouldn't I do this? So it was in school, picked up saxophone, trumpet, guitar, all those things. And through that, just kept playing and playing. Because once again, it was something that I found I was better at than other people. So I was like, oh, if I could kind of do this, it'll work. So I knew I was better than the people in that first couple years,
Right.
and better as in just like it flew out of me more, and I got more like gold stars, so to speak. More feedback saying, "Oh, you're good at this. You should keep going." So I did, and I just continued to play and meet people that were better than me and live out of insecurity and not practice to get better necessarily. But I stuck with it. If nothing else, I was persistent. So I was a full-time musician for years after that, and really until we started this company to help other musicians lose weight. But yeah, we got into it with my parents just loved music. My dad played guitar,
Hmm.
and one day when I was, gosh, how old was I? I think it was 10. It was right after fifth grade. I was snooping around in my parents' room, probably trying to find the Game Boy that they grounded me from using. And I was under their bed, and I found a guitar case. And I pulled it out and was like, "Dad, what's this?" And he's like, "This is my guitar." And so he pulled it out, showed me a couple chords. The next day, he brought me to Sam Ash, bought me a guitar and an amplifier, and set me up and started playing.
You're off to the races. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a bit and take me to um like the height of your musical career, and how that became your life, and how that lifestyle both was awesome and detrimental for you.
Yeah. The one of my favorite memories of really, especially before lockdown, when we could actually play regularly, we were playing shows nonstop, and we were playing Vegas at Gillies in Treasure Island. So a big old Western bar. I play country music, and the band is on fire. We're crushing it. Everybody's hitting the right notes at the exact right time. The lights are going. The audience is going nuts. Just beautiful, beautiful time. Absolutely loved it. And at the same time, whenever you're experiencing that kind of amazingness, it's still balanced out with something else a lot of the time, right? So we're playing from 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. So sleep cycle is thrown off. There's people buying shots and bringing them up to the stage all the time. And so you're oftentimes seen as disrespectful if you turn that down.
Right.
So it's either take the shot right there, or take a sip and put it back and pretend like you're going to drink it later, or or just say no, and then they don't like you as much, right? So battling with this whole pile of things, and there's plenty of other venues and shows that we did that were similar, where just constantly extra food, extra drinks, and we're having a blast. I love playing with these guys. I absolutely love playing with the band, and people are singing along. But when it comes with this extra baggage of unhealthy habits and unhealthy things, emotionally and physically,
Right.
it's really tough to sustain that and feel good.
Hmm. So when did you decide to take your health into your own hands, and what did that process look like?
There were a couple things that happened. Like I mentioned, there were multiple rock bottoms. So one of them was actually right before I joined this country band. Me and my buddy Mark decided that we were going to attempt the Pacific Crest Trail. So we go up to Canada, or like just to the Washington, Canada border, to hike all the way down to Mexico, thinking like, it's just walking. What's the big deal? And about a week in, he's got Achilles tendonitis. He'd already fallen down a mountain. If he hadn't been hurt, I'd have been injured in the next couple of days. So next thing you know, we're homeless in Washington and Oregon, just eating and drinking away whatever money we had saved up for the trip. And I thought I was fat before, but this is when I got to my absolute peak, right? So I stopped looking at the scale because I didn't want to know how much I weighed. Plus,
Right.
it was hard to find one while being homeless a little bit. But it was, we had some friends we would stay with and whatnot. So it wasn't like I'm on the streets the whole time. But when we got back on the trail after 6 weeks, we were both in horrible shape. We were worse off than we were before, even more hungover, I swear, for a day and a half. And that was just a mess. And 2 weeks later, we were both injured too much to continue again. We got home. He had to go get surgery for his shoulder that got pulled out of his socket from falling down a mountain. And I was okay enough to just keep walking, right? So I mean, we were at home, but I just went for a walk around the neighborhood, went for a walk down to the beach and back, went for longer walks. Eventually I started running. And then I got way more into running. And I ran 5Ks. I ran half marathons. I ran full marathons. I ended up running ultra marathons up in the mountains.
Oh, wow.
And I was still fat. It turns out that you can't outrun a bad lifestyle or a bad diet.
Yeah, I
So,
actually know that from experience too. I've run a couple marathons and was like, wait, where's my six pack? I'm running all the time. This is ridiculous.
right? Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and you're spending how many hours out there running? How much energy out there running or cycling, if that's your thing? I did both of them, and I had a personal trainer too, so I was hitting the gym a couple times a week, doing all the right things theoretically. I was
Right.
reading the books on, okay, what am I supposed to eat to optimally fuel for a race? You know, I'm doing the 6 meals a day, balanced with carbs, fats, and proteins, and man, it just didn't work. You know, I lost probably 20 pounds doing
Right.
just that. And then after another rock bottom or two, fueled by alcohol and tacos, then I was like, no, okay, let's turn this up a notch. And also fueled by injuries from my ultra running. I couldn't run anymore because it was just in pain because I was injured. So all I could figure out was, okay, let's learn how to eat. And once I learned what my body needed, because everybody's body is different, right? Then once you figure out what your body needs, things just take off. I melted off the next, like 60, 65 pounds in about a year. Just gone.
And that was primarily diet.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much stopped exercising, and I ate a lot of food too. I was probably eating 3,000 to 5,000 calories a day, but it was the right food that worked for me. And just
so Rusty, just between you and me, what's the secret?
Yeah. The secret is find out what works for you and your body, because you're a special snowflake and you need to know your body better than your mom does. You need to know your body better than your doctor does, right? It's yours. You're the one living in it forever. And you got to learn what works for you. You know, and I wish there was a better shortcut, man, but that's it. You're different. You got to learn yourself for yourself.
All right. And so what's the biggest obstacle when you're working with clients to help them overcome? Is it mindset? Is it preconceived notions? Is it bad habits? Is there like a key that unlocks that aha when you're working with them?
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost always from something seemingly insignificant. Right.
Okay.
So just by them deciding to work with me, it's a very large step, right? It's a big, like, you know what? No, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to figure out what works for me. And I work closely with them to help them figure that out. Now, say we're 2 weeks in and they say, oh, well, yeah, I mean, what's like one drink, or like, oh yeah, it was great for 2 weeks, but I just wanted to get some chicken nuggets. It's been a while. Right. And to them, man, I've been awesome. I've been killing it for 2 straight weeks. No slip ups at all. And I do deserve a reward for that. And then I have a talk with them. I'm like, well, hey, you agreed to me that we're going to nail 4 weeks before we even think about that. Right. So to them, it's one little meal. It's one drink. Like I'm just going to have one beer, one glass of wine, right? Or like just a little bit of this. It's when you come up against that moment where you say, no, I committed to 100%. I didn't
Right.
commit to 99%. That right there is my favorite part of coaching my clients, because they have to face that moment of, no, we're not settling down here for okay. We committed to another level of life. And by committing and by pushing through that one moment of, no, I'm not going to have just one drink. I am going to make it the full 4 weeks before I, think about having my next drink or cheat meal or whatever you want to call it. That's when honestly the biggest shift happens, because they realize what it's like to really commit 100%, and the work that it takes to push through that little deep dark point that they didn't think was so deep and dark.
100%, 100%. And there's a couple of things that I want to highlight in there. Like one is it's that old Yoda saying, do or do not, there is no try.
Yes.
Same thing as that 99 to 100%. And, I remember this from, dealing with cigarette smoking, as well as, when I was doing, no drinking challenges, and still do no drinking challenges. It's either you're committed or you're not. And it's that building that personal integrity and building that personal confidence is what allows you to make that fast progress. Because if you don't have faith in yourself and you don't keep commitments to yourself, you're not going to create the results you want.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's everyone is so used to not letting other people down, but they're okay letting themselves down. And
yes.
that's why coaching is so powerful, because you've got that accountability there. You're like, nope, sorry, I'm not going to let you do that.
Yeah, exactly. And so often it's, it's like the fish trying to understand what water is, right? They're in it all the time. You don't realize how often you may be letting yourself down. You're like, oh yeah, but it's just one. Like it's just one drink. Well, man, we know that how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you have that attitude that just the one drink is fine after you've committed to not drinking for a month, where else are you not fulfilling commitments with yourself or with other people? Where else are you letting yourself down? Are you getting off the treadmill a minute early? Because like, yeah, I did most of the work, Are you not giving it your all when you're with your wife or your kids or your family?
Rusty, I got to admit, I was doing plank this morning and I stopped 3 seconds before a minute. So
Ben.
I just have to kind of, I have to admit that. The next round I went full though, but now that's off my chest. That's another thing that's great about working with a coach is you don't have to spend time in self beat up if you do mess up, right? Because we all do mess up, and you just kind of dust yourself off and keep going. And one of the things I love is also practicing self-compassion, where it's like, okay, I don't have to beat myself up. I get to show self-love and I get to recommit, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's the beautiful point of that moment I talked about earlier, where it's that failure or almost failure, right? Sometimes I get the phone call the next day, like, hey, I had some chicken nuggets last night. Is that okay? Or it's like, hey, I'm going out tonight. I had this call, this chat yesterday. Hey, I'm going out tonight for my 30th anniversary. Like, I'm just going to have like just one glass of wine or like one tequila, but I'm not going to have any beer. Right. And it's that moment afterwards, right? Like you mentioned, where you dust yourself off, you practice self-compassion. You realize like, hey, I realize now that was an obstacle I needed to overcome. And now I'm going to recommit to this. And I'm going to decide here and now that I'm not going to let something little like that take me down. I'm not going to let something little like that trip me up or sacrifice the life that I can have, the results I want to get, whether it's in health or business or relationships.
Yeah, 100%. And I know from my own weight loss journey, about 50% was diet and the other 50% was alcohol.
Yeah.
And whenever I tried to optimize my diet, but still had alcohol, didn't get the results, vice versa. So it's, they're both pretty important factors.
Yes.
What else have I not asked you that's important for people to know about the work you do, or the stand that you take in the world?
A really big one, especially in the musicians world, right? Especially in the musicians health world. And I know that this is true for your audience as well, is the mental health side of things, right? And there's really two options, two paths we can take with this a lot of the time. And this is a bit of an oversimplification. Of course, there's a million paths you can take, but the way that I found most effective is finding these two paths. One, you can do the internal mindset work, sitting with yourself, working through these thoughts, these emotions, these feelings. If it's depression, like, what are you dwelling on? If it's anxiety, what are you uncertain about? What is it that's causing this? And that's absolutely valuable, right? Taking the time to sit with yourself and work through that. Because if you have that and you're trying to lose weight, it's not really going to work, man. You know, it doesn't, it holds you back so much, you know, and if you haven't experienced that, ask yourself what's going on there, if you're working towards those goals. Now, the other way through that is not just working internally, but doing the external work, right? Really deciding, okay, even though I've got anxiety, even though depression is messing with me today, how can I still work towards my goals, right? And it does take working on both paths to really get there. But
Right.
for me and for a lot of our clients, pushing first and foremost on the nutrition and the lifestyle actually helps further the other side of the path. And that's because physical energy and mental energy are just two sides of the same coin.
Right.
You need one to have the other. So you do have to build them both. Now, 75 to 90% of serotonin, the happiness hormone, is made in your gut.
Right.
So if you're eating junk and you're depressed or anxious, you are not even giving yourself an opportunity to have the happiness hormone flow through you, right? So you don't even have the option to be happy, man. Like, what would you rather have, McDonald's and stay sad? Or have like some damn broccoli and like, okay, it doesn't taste as good right here, right now, but you know what? It's going to let me produce that hormone, right? So mental health is a huge aspect of what we do. And we attack it mainly through, let's make sure the gut can produce that. Let's make sure your body is ready to receive that. And then when we combine that with the mental work, with sitting and thinking through your thoughts, processing your emotions and traumas, you become unstoppable, man. Just unstoppable.
100%. I know for me, most of my dependencies, they're around numbing myself, right? And then when you stop numbing yourself and you ask yourself, what am I running away from and what am I not dealing with? And then getting some help to process, getting some help to release, and getting some help to change beliefs, all of that type of work really allows you to get to that root cause, so you're not constantly trying to put a band-aid over a wound, and that band-aid is actually just making your wound bleed more, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that you said that. Where can folks learn more about you if they're interested in weight loss, if they're interested in learning about the rock star musician, weight
Yeah,
loss coach?
absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, is where we do most of our content, and we live there. So please check that out. There's a lot of concrete tactics, tips, and tools you can use to make these shifts internally and externally. And if you're interested in getting more, just learning a quicker version of my story, go to my website, rustyosborne.com, rustyosborne.com, and that'll walk you through my story, what we do, and you can even book a call with me right there, and we dig in and help. I call it a health audit, right? We'll dig in and see exactly what it is you need to get to that next level of losing weight and feeling great, and how to sustain that forever. And that's totally free, by the way. If anybody wants to have that chat, you just head to my website, click book a call, and we'll have that chat and get you on the right path.
All right, beautiful. That Instagram handle one more time.
The Coach Rusty
All
on
right.
Instagram. Coach Rusty.
Beautiful. Well, Rusty, thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
So
Okay.
now,
Now we flip the
shall we?
script.
Let's flip it, baby. Let's flip it.
Woo!
It's time. I want to learn all there is to know about Ben's story, and what we can pull from you today to help us out. So, first off, Ben, I just love knowing you and love being able to see you grow as well in our mastermind group, and when we're talking together and exchanging our own tips, tactics, and mindset shifts and insights. Right. So it's been fantastic working with you on that level. And I look forward to continuing that for sure. Now,
Likewise.
I'd love for you to, yeah, of course, man. I'd love for you to just give us a little, your background, your story on how you got where we are now.
Sure. So, let's start at the beginning. So, I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside DC, and grew up in, I'd say upper middle class, affluent suburbs. Psychiatrist dad, two older sisters, and very was very well off in many respects, like private school, all of that, and that I'm all very lucky to have all of that. On the flip side, my mom suffered with depression. So it was an interesting dynamic having like a workaholic psychiatrist dad who, provided amazingly for us, but then also have a mom suffering from depression. And as a youngest of three, and as like a sensitive little guy, it was tough on me, right? So that's like when I first started finding my first numbing mechanisms, and then that was food. So I remember eating tons of animal crackers, diet caffeine-free Coke, just cinnamon rolls, mac and cheese. So I was a chubby little guy. There was like Domino's pizza night at least once a week, Friday night Chinese food, anyways.
Yep.
So that's kind of when I first realized, like, oh, these things can make me feel better and take me away from some of the pain I'm feeling. When I got a little bit older, I was kind of a geek, and I went to a different middle school, and I was like, in seventh grade, this shopping at TJ Maxx and big glasses is not working for me. So I remember that summer, it's like, it's time to become cool. So I got the Doc Martens. I got some band t-shirts of bands I didn't really listen to, and the flannel. This was during the grunge age. And like, I'm cool now. So then I started hanging out with some cool folks. And that's when I got into drinking and smoking. And I was like, wow, cool. I can alter my mind more effectively and escape my reality. So I share all that to say that, I was a good student, but I was also very much concerned with fitting in because I didn't feel like I fit in. And these numbing mechanisms were great coping mechanisms for dealing with what was going on at home. And so fast forward, I went to college in Boston at Tufts, ended up moving to New York City, and that was a great place to kind of like continue my lifestyle without worrying about operating a motor vehicle and endangering anybody. And it was acceptable. You go to drink as a way to socialize, so it kind of fit in. I spent a number of years as an animation producer and then an advertising producer. And that also, I did business development, and that was drinking after work at open bars. So, again, I picked a lifestyle that worked for me, but I was also working with some creative people and working on the business side. So there was some great bonuses to that. In my late 20s, my coping mechanisms stopped working. And that's when I knew I needed to get help, because it was no longer fun and I was feeling empty. I no longer had control over it. It had control over me. And, one of my rock bottom moments, I was, almost in tears, not knowing why, but knowing I needed to get help at work. And I wasn't the type of guy that shed tears. So started with a psychiatrist. Within 15 minutes, he offered me some pharmaceuticals. I was like, I'll give him a shot. But I was already numb, not what I needed. Then I tried therapy, and that's kind of what I was looking for, is talking through some stuff from growing up. And that was cathartic and helpful. But after about 3 months, I was like, what's wrong with me this week? And that seemed counterproductive. then an ex-girlfriend of mine gave me a gift of a free coaching session that turned into a weekend intensive, that turned into a 6-month intensive. And that was absolutely transformational for me. So I was challenged to go 3 months substance free. And I then parlayed that into a full year. I learned how to process emotions and express them, because I think up until that point, I only had like an adolescent handle of emotions. Like if I feel bad, I'm going to take this or run away. And I created a TV pilot, which was a lifelong dream, started my coach and training program. And eventually at the end of that coach and training program, I was like, if I'm going to be a coach, I got to live out a dream. So that's when I embarked on an 8-month solo backpacking trip. And I started with Kilimanjaro, and I ended with Everest Base Camp. So that picture, I always get that in mirrors. That picture behind me is I took when I was in the Himalayas, and it was absolutely incredible. And that was like a life-changing trip for me in many ways. So fast forward, I got back from that trip, and I was like, I was honestly scared to become a full-time coach at that point. I was around 30. So I went back to my advertising career, and I was like, let me just put this coaching thing on the side. But then it kept scratching at me. I was like doing well and coasting in my corporate career. And I was like, what is my purpose though? Like these advertising brands, like just wasn't connecting with me. And so I started the Purpose Up podcast as this like exploration. Let me interview purpose-led people, inspire others, and level up. And then in that, I was like, connecting with some people who were coaching, and it rekindled my fire for it. So I started side hustling coaching in 2016, got some business coaching at that point. And then when the universe handed me a restructure in early 2018, right when my first son was born, I was like, all right, it's time to go full in. And, that's when, I went full time and have not looked back since. So that's the backstory.
I love it, man. And I love, and I know so many people can relate to this too, where you find that there's something not working for you and you find some way out of it, right? And you go from being the kid who's just like, I'm not cool, I need to be cool. And you find a way out of it. You buy the different clothes that get you to that next level of coolness, right? And of course that comes with its own problems. And as you plateau there and you say, well, I got to get to the next level, you find a way out of it. You get bigger and better jobs. You find your way out of that with, your stints of sobriety, right? And that gets you to a certain level. And then you decide, well, okay, I'm here. How can I get to the next level? And you go 8 months, starting with Kilimanjaro. That's not a little mountain, dude. That's not, that's wild. And even from there, from Everest Base Camp, one of the tallest places on the whole earth, like you decide, well, I could go up from here, right? Obviously you had the foray back into some old stuff, but you continually decide that you're going to make it to the next level.
100%.
Right? And it's just so inspiring and exciting. And especially because there's people that stay at that first level or one of those levels for so long before they work up the courage to go for the next one. So we need stories like that show, hey, no matter where you're at, if you're at Everest Base Camp looking to make it to the top of Everest, that's one thing, or if you're stuck at this low level, making maybe even minimum wage and trying to get a side hustle off the ground or something, but it's, you're held back by your habits or your what do you call it? Your tendencies towards alcohol or food or other coping mechanisms.
Right.
Even if you're there, there's still always a step you can take, right? And you're just proof that you can always level up no matter where you're at. So really, really appreciate that theme of your life there, man. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up courage. That pulls in another story. I remember when I started my podcast, I had the question, who am I to start a podcast? I've got a monotone voice. Nobody wants to hear from me. I don't know anything about purpose. I'm a phony, et cetera. So I talk a lot with my clients about those voices in our head that hold us back. And I call them our ego voices that keep us comfortable and keep us safe. And it comes from that lizard part of our brain that says any change is bad and we'll die if we change, right? But that ability to act through fear and have courage is so important. So behind me, you'll see a book on the bookshelf. It's a children's book I wrote, and it's called Little Benny Piggy, Encourage for the Win. And it's a story about a scared little pig who goes to the park. He doesn't know anybody, sees some kids playing, and a wise squirrel talks to him and says, just be you and go make friends. And he does. But it's about that feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I was terrified about becoming an entrepreneur. I was Mr. Stability, and I had a belief that I'm not the entrepreneurial type, right? And you can see if you have that belief, that's not going to really serve you well. So as I stepped into entrepreneurship, that was a big thing for me to overcome. But ultimately, like why I do what I do was, I've been in that place where fear has held me back. And I've been in that place where I know that I wanted to have more fulfillment in my life. And I've been in that place with the golden handcuffs, making almost 200K a year. And ultimately I was like, this is not doing it for me. This is not what I want my life to be about. So, just to transition. So I work with folks on helping them purpose up, right? The four circles of the Venn diagram I work with folks is career transition, leadership development, impact optimization, and purpose alignment. And ultimately why I do what I do is to help people be more lit up in their lives, to hopefully work less, have better impact, and be able to be more present. And the more people that I get lit up, I feel like my job is lighting lighthouses. The more I feel like I'm leveraging my time in a useful way. So that's what, gets me fired up about doing this work.
I love that. I love that. And because you do so much purpose work, I'm really curious, what is your life purpose, man?
So it's a good question. And when I really zoom out, my purpose is to use my innate skills, which is, intuition, listening, and challenging folks to help them unlock their next level of beingness, of their next level of joy, their next level of fulfillment. And ultimately, that's how time is well spent for me. And there's different missions that you can have along the way, right? So that can look like coaching right now, that can look like speaking later, that can look like a book. These are all things that I've toyed with in what I want to create. And our purpose can honestly evolve over time too. We have different stages of life, and I've got a good mentor, Dr. Holly Woods, who's written a great book about the different stages of purpose in our lives. So whether it's like during the beginning of the pandemic, where I really had to be more of a parent than a business owner because we just needed to take care of my two young kids, or whether it is now where I get to figure out how to go from, hey, how to be an effective coach into how to be an effective business owner. There's different missions in that purpose. But as long as we feel like we're aligned with a North Star that's aligned with our values, and every day we ask ourselves, how can I be more in purpose in this moment? And how can I be more in purpose, in our mission? Those are great questions. Because, as an aside, I don't feel like our purpose is going to part from the clouds, or we're going to find it by looking under a rock. But the more we get in tune with our intuition, what's important to us, and the more we take action, the more feedback we get from the universe. We figure out what energizes us and what drains our energy, and we get to keep course correcting into what feels even better.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely. And totally agree with you. Everyone out there is already living their purpose in some way or another in some small piece. And you get that clue by, well, does it feel good or not? If it feels good, well, that's probably more in line with you than if it doesn't. Right. And yeah, maybe it sounds like some hippie crap, but man, it isn't the point of life. Isn't that just the whole point of this? So I love that you've got that drive to help other people do the same thing and really pull that out. Now, what we do here, we also work with uncovering purposes, passions. What is it that drives you? And the purpose of us helping purpose on that is because we're looking at sustainability of the new habits and health lifestyles and things, it's weight loss, right? That if we can tie those to a purpose, to your life purpose, right? We can really say, well, if this is my purpose, how do I need to live to support that, right? And I know you've found this too. If you're numbing yourself with alcohol or foods, you're not going to perform as well. Whether it's on a call, on a podcast, is when understanding your purpose, where you want to be, what it is you're doing, and the impact you're having. How do you fuel yourself, or how do you keep your health together in a way that supports all that?
So yeah, I mean, I think it definitely starts every day with managing your own energy, right? So for me, that's meditation, that's exercise, breath work, and those three in combination do a really good job of helping me feel great. Layer on top of that, for me, I found intermittent fasting works great. And then I do like a power smoothie lunch. So all of that, keeps my energy up, getting enough sleep. What else do I like to do to optimize myself? I mean, I think that's it. And then that mindset work of when I meditate, visualizing what I want. I love Joe Dispenza's got a great morning meditation, and taking that time to drop in the meditative zone and spending time in that visualization space is pretty huge to help train you to raise that vibration. And I love doing that work.
So good. And it's proof once again of what we talked about earlier, where physical energy and the mental energy, or the spiritual emotional energy, are kind of, they're two sides of the same coin. When you're working on managing your energy through breath work and meditation and visualization, so that's absolutely turning up the way that you show up in life. The same way that eating something like your power smoothie is going to make sure you've got the physical fuel to really continue on and really crush it that day. So I love the way that you view that. And I know you also, you found that going plant-based works well for you too, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm this January, it'll be 7 years for me. And I just found food went through me more easily. It took some time to figure out what combinations work best and to not have a junk food plant-based diet. But definitely found that ethically, it just seemed to make sense for me. And B, not having to spend as much time in heavy digestion allowed me to free up more energy.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are considering, or my wife's considering going pescatarian, because she got me into it in the first place. It started as a 30-day challenge. So it was never like this bold declaration. It was like, let me see if I can do it. I love challenges like that, doing the same thing with alcohol, doing the same thing with, no refined sugars, etc. So that's something that I use with my clients as well. But yeah, considering how does fish affect me, January coming up in 2021. So I'll let you know if I commit to that or not.
Yeah, please do. And so many of I'm sure your audience as well as mine is a fan of people that are self-experimenters, like Tim Ferriss or Dave Asprey, Joe Rogan, those kind of guys that, okay, so we've been doing one thing for so long. Like, well, what happens if I switch it up? It's an experiment. Like, it's not like you're screwing your values and things by having a fish, right? It's, at least as far as I can tell. So I just love that idea of, let's have an experiment. Let's see how it goes. And ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, how every person's body is different. Everybody works with different foods. I personally do not go well with a plant-based diet. Like, I feel ungodly amazing when I have meat in my life. Right? And I ethically source it. I do my own hunting and things like that to make sure that I know where this meat came from. But it still works for me, and it doesn't have to work for you. Right? And just that it's, whether it's food or political agendas or whatever the hell it is in life, like, you got to figure out what works for you. And I love your example of that. And you're just a shining example of all those things, just knowing this is how I roll. This is what works for me. I'm not afraid to experiment and try something new. But you keep it to your core, your values, your truth. So good, man. So good.
100%. Well, speaking of, punctuality is important to me. So I've got a client call coming up. So if folks want to learn more about me, purposeup.com. That is purposeup.com. Instagram, I am Ben Stein. That's Stein. And, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So you can just search Ben Stein and Purpose Up. Rusty, it was great being interviewed by you. Thank you for letting me share my story. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks for setting this up and having us both together here. It's always a blast chatting with you and doing what we can to bring value to the audience and help them live their best lives too. So good, man.
Thank
So
you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you too, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.